Welcome to For the Long Run, the podcast exploring the why behind what keeps runners running long, strong, and motivated. I'm your host, Jonathan Levitt. Through personal and professional connections in the running world, I have the privilege of getting to know some amazing athletes. I've always been fascinated by the psychological aspect of running, and this podcast is aimed at exploring this and much more. I hope you enjoy. This episode is sponsored by Janji. Janji is a local to Boston running apparel company dedicated to exploring, connecting, and giving back through running. Inspired by travel, informed by function, and built for adventure, Janji makes running essentials to equip you wherever you run or roam. The company was founded on the core belief that water is a human right and donates 2% of their sales to supporting clean water organizations around the world. I've known the two co-founders of Janji for over 5 years, and it's been a privilege to see them grow and increase the level at which they've been able to give back to the running community and to the world in general. Welcome back. I have Aisha Praught Leer joining me on the podcast today. Aisha, thanks so much for taking some time to chat.
Thanks for having me.
For sure. So first question, who is Aisha?
Oh, wow. That's a loaded question. I guess I'm a lot of things. I, on paper, am a professional runner for Under Armour, team boss, and various other ventures. But I would say I define myself more as a really loving friend, partner, family member, and just a pretty caring individual.
That's awesome. So given that, you shared a lot there, but given that this is a running podcast, we'll start on the running side.
Great.
Do you remember what got you into running?
Yeah. I feel like there are so many other people with interesting paths to running, and mine is pretty non-traditional. I didn't play any ball sports growing up. I was a bit of an odd bird. I did karate and competitive cheerleading as my sports, which are two totally opposing dichotomies, I guess. But there was like some cheer politics going on at my high school that I wasn't fond of. So after freshman year, I decided I didn't want to cheer anymore. And my friend Kayla, she convinced me to run cross country to stay in shape for track, where I was a sprinter. So I thought, like, okay, sure, I guess I don't have anything else going on. I'll figure out a way to run 3 miles straight, and then I'll join the team. And the rest is history. I started kind of slowing down, or not getting any faster than 59 seconds for a 400, and then just started moving up in distance my junior year of high school. So I guess my running age is a little bit younger than my peers, but yeah, it's kind of a strange path, but here I am.
And at what point did you realize that you mentioned your story may have been a little different than your peers in terms of how they got into running, but do you remember the point at which you realized that your skills were also a little bit different?
I don't have like an aha moment necessarily. And I don't really have any moments in my career where I thought like, oh yeah, totally. Like this is what I'm meant to do. It just sort of baby steps kind of started rolling of, okay, I ran pretty well in cross country my senior year of high school. A couple of college coaches started looking at me, but I was, only a second year distance runner. So didn't have a ton of accolades. The recruiting process was kind of slow for me. I committed sort of early to Illinois State, and like then the recruiting kind of picked up after that. But I was like, hey, the deal is done, man. Like I had one coach that was interested in me early. I'm going there. But yeah, I mean, I think that what pushed me to becoming a good runner was two things: team, and I'm super, super competitive. So I love the team aspect of cross country, and that got me like really into wanting to be good. And then I just like winning races, and who doesn't? But I just found that I could win more races if I ran a little further. So that's what I did.
Cool. So you mentioned team. You're part of a pretty special group out there in Boulder. Do you want to talk about the team you're a part of today?
Yeah. So I am, I guess, the first founding member of Team Boss, because Emma can't be a team of herself. So, so I moved out to Boulder and joined with Emma Coburn and her now husband, Joe Bosshard, at the end of 2016. And we really wanted to pursue excellence in a meaningful way that centered around helping each other and sort of being competitive together instead of against one another. And we've sort of built and added more athletes over the years that share that same value. So what I believe we have one of the best teams of middle distance runners in the world. And even distance, like going up to Lower Thweet, running the marathon and getting fifth at the US trials this year. We just have such a special group of truly, truly excellent athletes that just have, in my opinion, the best attitudes and make this really hard sport so fun and really, really rewarding to see everyone succeed at such a high level and feel ownership of each other's success, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I think it's super cool to, instead of having athletes in silos, one athlete here, one athlete there, or training together sometimes, training together other times, having everyone doing it together all the time is a super cool environment. And I want to get into more of the teams of today, but talk to me about the process of what did it look like in 2016 when Emma may have said to you, or you said to Emma, "Hey, let's train together." How did that evolve?
It was really just luck. I was looking for a new situation in training. She was looking for a new situation in training, and we just our paths just sort of collided in a very similar part or transition in period in our lives. And I had made a phone call to my husband's really sort of, I was going to say infamous American miler, and I think that's the right word. But one of his friends from his career, I'd made a phone call to him, and then got this like weird intercepting phone call from Emma, and it was a conversation that totally changed the course of what I was envisioning for myself post Rio. And she said, like, "Hey, I know this does sound crazy, but Joe's going to coach me. I really think that you should give him a call." And that wasn't part of the plan, but I called Joe and was met with just such a professional, knowledgeable, put together coach, even though he had just started out. And I mean, had been coaching Emma for a month at the time. But yeah, I mean, my first phone call with Joe, he was just like, "Hey, I've watched you race. I've seen your progression. I notice that you get through 2K and then you fall apart. And I think that if we change X, Y, and Z, then we can really maybe have something." And he was so confident. Emma is just the consummate professional. And if they felt so confident, then I trusted that immediately. And yeah, Will and I moved to Boulder. We decided in December, we moved in January, and the early days was just me getting my ass kicked day in and day out by Emma. But, you just start to build so much confidence once you get closer and closer in training to someone who is just truly the epitome of world class. So it was a really cool transition.
What were some of the early lessons that you picked up from her and from Joe?
Yeah, a couple of things. One, just to accept discomfort and be comfortable there. And that was something that I wasn't very good at. Like, we transitioned my training to sort of longer reps and sitting with the discomfort of training more. And I was coming from a system that was more interval based. And so I previously hadn't had to concentrate for 60 minutes straight with no stopping. And that was a really good lesson for me to learn, is like, just be comfortable. This is going to suck, but kind of who cares? Just do it. Be relaxed in your mind, accept it, and, just show up and do the work and go home. And that was really humbling and super important for me. And, I've built upon that year after year of like, okay, I've done this before. Now, how much can I add to that? Like how much pain can I tolerate? And it's like a fun experiment to play with in your mind of like, man, how much can I handle? Like, this is a fun game to play with myself now, which makes me sound like a masochist, but I'm swear not. Yeah. And then another thing that I really learned from Emma is to celebrate wins. And that's not something that I am very good at. It's kind of hard for me, or it had been hard for me, to relax and be happy about stuff. I was always like yeah, that's great, but type of person. And she really helped show me that, like, hey, if we absolutely smashed this early season workout, like, why don't we go get a margarita? Like, that's such a great idea. Like, I'm a human being. Wow. And I think that that's provided me with just so much more joy. And it doesn't have to be a margarita. It doesn't have to be like, you don't always have to have a treat, but like
sometimes mimosas, right?
Sometimes mimosas. Sometimes you miss podcasts because you're having a mimosa. Whoops.
It's the best excuse ever. I don't think anything will ever top that.
Hey, Corey ran a fast 800. We have to celebrate. I think that's something that has really made the last few years be so meaningful and so fun. We do dumb stuff like selecting items that are completely frivolous as gifts to buy ourselves when we do cool stuff. Like, one thing that I had selected for myself was this like ridiculous pair of velour llama slip-on sneakers that if I ran X, Y, or Z, I would earn these llama slippers, these llama shoes. And I was talking about them all season. And I was like kind of running against a brick wall because like I couldn't quite hit my prize. And I wanted these llama shoes so badly. And Joe ended up buying them for me for Christmas because he gets everybody a Christmas gift, which is like way too nice. But yeah, just like having dumb little goals like that makes it really fun, or dumb little treats. Rewards for yourself. I don't know. Emma's really good at that, and that's a fun thing that we do.
I think the fun aspect is not to be overrated, right? Like, it's your job to perform, but if you're not having fun with it, what's the point? So what are some of the other ways that you and your teammates and friends infuse fun into the equation? Because I think even it's even more important for amateurs to realize that like you don't have to be so serious all the time.
Oh my gosh. It's so
this
true.
This is fun.
It is so true. It just doesn't have to be so serious all the time. Like
and it doesn't matter either at the end of the day. My favorite story sorry to cut you off there, but like this story is perfect for it. Running itself is, I think, meaningless. I think it's the meaning that you attach to that you attach to it, and the memories you make that that make it so important. And so I did a long day in the Grand Canyon, and afterwards I get on the bus and I'm starting to eat a picky bar, and the picky bar wrapper is crinkly and it makes a whole lot of noise. The bus driver turns around and goes, "No eating on the bus." And I go, "Ma'am, I'm like pretty hungry. I just want to like eat this picky bar. I've been running for 13 hours here." She's like, "I don't care. No running on the bus or no eating on the bus." And it's just this reminder that at the end of the day, like it just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And it's like we have to do things we enjoy because that's all we have, right?
Totally. That is hilarious. I wish that was like caught on camera, because that would be a hilarious SNL skit. But yeah, I mean, it just doesn't need to be so serious. And don't get me wrong, we absolutely take our bodies to the max. We train super hard. But then, we run in the morning and we don't stop talking for an entire run. It's like, it's our social hour. We catch up and discuss what happened on the reality TV shows that we watch, because who freaking cares? It's entertaining. I don't care. Judge me if you want. That's your problem. But like we go to brunch. We do a super, super hard workout when we're up training at Supertude in Crested Butte. And there have been multiple times where I have laid a Horcrux on the track and we're cooling down and I'm having to walk on the cool down, and we laugh about it. And then we go through the drive-thru at Sonic and get a Red Bull slushie and some tater tots and like laugh it off. Like, we need sugar. We need this is not good. And we just crack up about things that like are insignificant. And, we can laugh at ourselves. We can have fun. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to be successful.
I think it means that you can be successful. I think that those that are in the sport for a long time realize that it's more than just results. And I say that not as somebody who has experienced that firsthand, obviously, but this is episode 100 something of the podcast where 70 plus of the athletes are professionals. And it's incredible to be able to learn from an athlete like yourself. And I get to notice these consistencies, and the people who are talking about running the way that you talk about running are generally the ones that enjoy it and get to be successful at it and get to, achieve progress in it. And I think that, it can't be, reaffirmed enough that that's the kind of stuff that matters.
I totally agree. And I get a lot of questions from young athletes or even young athlete parents, particularly like really high achieving high school athletes. And like, what's one piece of advice? What's one piece of advice? And the fun aspect is so underrated. If you want to do, like, I'm 30 years old. Like I've been running the mile for 15 years. Like if I wasn't having fun, I just wouldn't be doing it anymore. And if I started taking things so seriously at such a young age, like you just would burn out. And I understand that there's reason to take things seriously. And when I line up for a race, I am ready to go. I'm ready to run my eyeballs out. But at the same time, it's like, if there isn't a piece of you that's enjoying what you're doing, it's like, why? Right. Like it's, as you said, it's running. Like it just doesn't have to be such a big, scary, serious thing all the time.
Totally. I love that so much. For me personally, I didn't start seeing the type of tangible results that I had been so focused on until I stopped caring about getting the tangible results. And like, I spent 4 years trying to run a sub-3 marathon, and it didn't happen until I was able to get to a place where I could stand on the starting line. Yeah. Ready to absolutely race my face off, but also not care about whether it was a 2, a 3, or a 4 on the finishing clock. And I saw a 2 on the finishing clock, and that wasn't the measure of success. The measure of success was that was freaking awesome. And when things got really hard at mile 22 and 23, I chose, as you said, get uncomfortable, choose discomfort. How far can you go when the other option is like you don't have to hurt? Like you could walk off in a mile or in a marathon or in a 100-miler or a 800 at any point, but you choose this discomfort, and it's such a privilege to be able to have trained enough to get to a point where you can consciously choose that discomfort.
Totally. One thing that I've learned being on Team Jamaica for however many years now is enjoyment really means you're relaxed. If you look at Bolt and his career, it's like, guys, giving the pound to the person holding his blocks and smiling and dancing and loose and relaxed. And it's like, well, yeah, like, of course, like that. It makes so much sense if you're enjoying it.
Have you always been that way?
No. Oh my gosh, no. I cried the morning of the Olympic final in Rio, trying to get my breakfast in my body because I was so nervous and like so upset that I was by myself in the Olympic Village, just like chomping down a bowl of granola, like just terrified for the pain that I was about to incur running the Olympic final. And, it's like, you just don't have to go through those moments. And thankfully when I got there, I've learned some coping mechanisms, and, I find the people in the call room that keep me relaxed, like Jen LaCause, the Australian, once I get to the call room, I'm usually fine. But yeah, like there have been so many times in my career that like I can barely get my breakfast down because I'm so nervous and uptight and concerned and worried. And it's just like, why? Like how many hundreds of times have I raced in my life? That's something that I've really had to work through.
So it sounded like when you joined Team Boss, you learned some of that fun from Emma. Talk to me about where Team Boss is today, and I'll frame that with the context of I had Ben Rosario on the podcast back in last week talking about the deal that his team signed, and his commentary was teams are where it's at. Like this is where it's at from an athlete standpoint, from a brand standpoint, from a coach standpoint. This is the future. So talk to me about where your team is at, and do you agree with what he said?
Yeah, I really agree. Teams are where it's at, and especially if you can cultivate a healthy team culture like they have and we have. If you look at middle distance running in the States and how far it's come, you look at where big time performances are coming from, and it's out of powerhouse groups. There's just so much to be gained when you have a lot of like-minded people pushing each other. And there's just so much more support in a group. So what makes Team Boss unique is that we don't have a sponsor. So it opens our possibility to different athletes that can come to our group. There are definitely pros and cons of not having a sponsor. One, like we don't have a massive footwear-backed budget to work with. So, there are some limitations with that. But Joe and Emma and Emma's family have been so incredibly generous and have supported us in a lot of ways. But not having a footwear sponsor allows us to make decisions for what's best for the athlete on an individual level and on a group level. So we can do things that benefit each other setting up paced races for each other. We can fundraise for things that are meaningful to us without having to clear it through sponsors, as we did with the Team Boss Colorado Mile this summer. We raised $30,000 for Sachs Foundation that provides scholarships to Black and Brown students in the state of Colorado, which is just an amazing thing that we can do because we're sort of untethered. We can make decisions that suit us as athletes and us as people. So I think that's really important. And the mentality shift of having a group of people that everybody wants each other to succeed, I think that we end up really putting ourselves out there even harder. Like I know that if all else fails in my mind, I know that I want to race well for my group. And that if I can't find, I've got 1,000 reasons to run well, but like at the end of the day, like, no, we don't have a jersey that unites us. But I know that I'm showing up for other people. And I love that accountability. I love the pressure that comes with that of like, hey, I'm lining up for Team Boss. Like, I better bring it because I'm a representative of something that's bigger than myself. And I want this team to still grow and to keep moving forward. And I want to be a positive driver of bringing our group to a higher level.
That's super cool. One of the things that you keep mentioning is this competitor and friend type dynamic. You mentioned before we started recording that you had a couple of friends that are on the Bowerman team that are joining you in Boulder for a couple of weeks or however long it is. And you race against them, and you're going to train with them, and so how does that play in, or does it play in?
I think it's easy. So, Emily Infeld and I have been friends since we both turned pro, and she's here in Boulder. And Portland is dealing with some of the worst air quality in the world, and they can't go outside. And I'd previously been in Park City with Emily and Kate Grace, and having a great time training together, running together. Talking about our dreams for the year. And I think that there are a lot of ways to look at athletics, and something that I find in other people that really draws me to them is the idea that not everybody shares this view, but the people that I love the most share the view that like success isn't finite. And that if I am successful, that doesn't take away from someone else. And I feel so lucky to have friends that are in the running community that share that value, that like, look, if Emily has success, like that's fantastic. If Kate has success, that's amazing. Like I root for them. I cheer for them. And I think it is easier when we're all in the off season and we're just building mileage. Like, we're not really into hard workouts yet. So, we go out and run together, and it's kind of like, the more the merrier. And I know when I line up against them, like I want to beat them and they want to beat me because it's a race. But then, when we're off the track, it's like, hey, like we're all doing this very hard thing and we're all trying our best. And it's success isn't a pie, it's like we can all share here. If I take a piece, there's plenty of pieces to go around. It's an infinite pie. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not a mean girl. So that's not really my, not really my style to like not, want to open my door to my friends, when they're needing clean air.
Totally. Besides the infinite pie reference that you just made, which sounds incredible. Hopefully it's an apple pie. I love the success isn't finite mantra, and like I can't love it enough. Like that's the epitome of what I enjoy most about at least the Boston running community and the Boulder running community, that everybody is there doing it because they love it and they're doing it to help other people get better. I have a community here in Boston where I have friends that I'm faster than, and I have friends that are much faster than me. And it's like this feedback or this loop where I help the slower people, the faster people help me, and it's just this like perfect dynamic of paying it forward and pacing each other and this and that. And when you have an environment like that where people are in it for the fun of it or for the success of everybody, I think it's a really special place to be. And I don't think that there are a lot of communities or sports even that like that's commonplace.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's what makes communities really special. And I think it's pretty simple. It's like, do I want to be a good person or do I want to be an asshole? It's like,
it's a pretty easy call, right?
Yeah. Like I think that spreading whatever resource I have, whether it be going on a run with someone or sharing a conversation or whatever, I don't really know. Like I feel like I don't really have that much to give as a person, but like whatever I have, I'm happy to give it. And I think that makes the world just sort of a better place. If like everybody's just a little bit, especially now, if you can just be a little bit kinder to the people around you, and if you can share whatever
just
you have,
a little bit even helps.
just a little weeny little bit. It's like the world is just going to be better, and it doesn't take away much from you to be a good person. It's just like it's not that hard.
Totally. So you said success isn't finite. We talked about that, but my next question is what does success mean to you?
I have been thinking about this a lot in my older age.
Older age. I'm also 30. We're not old.
All right, we're young.
We're not 20. We're not 20, and we can't have too many of those margaritas, but we're not old.
We really can't. It really sucks.
Yeah, I know. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, gosh. I think that as I've gotten older, I've changed what success means. And I'm still sort of changing what that means to me. And I think that if I can walk away, like from my career is a good example. If I can walk away from my career knowing that I did everything that I could to get the best of myself, then that is a success. And I know I'm an athlete of integrity, and I know I'm a good person. And if I just use all the resources that I have within my mind and body, and I can sort of exhaust that to produce whatever result I can. I mean, every runner knows if you gave it 100% or not when you walk off of a course or a track. Like, you know deep down if you did it, and that is where I'll define success in the toward the end of my career. Is like, did I? And it sounds so dumb. Like, did I give it my all? But you know that it's really hard to do that. It's really hard to leave absolutely everything out there and to
like
leave
emptying the well.
Yeah, it's hard. It's when you race so much, like there's always a tiny piece of just human preservation that you can hold on to. And like, if I can end my career in 5 years, however much longer I get to do this, like if I can really know that I gave all of myself, I did all the little things, I was happy, I spread joy, and I really leaned into competition, that is success to me.
Awesome. So fast forward 5 or 10 years, what are you going to be most proud of?
I don't know. I hope that I still have a couple tricks up my sleeve. I'd really, really like to make another Olympic final. I would really like to um, have a top 10 finish at a world championship. Those are the things that I'm looking for. And I hope that I get to look back and say that I've achieved those things. But up until this point in my career, I'm super proud of my Commonwealth Games win. That was a huge game changer in my life. And I'm also really proud of like some of the adversity that I've overcome. I've had some pretty serious injuries that I've come back from that have been almost like defining moments in my career, athletically and just as a person. Of like, you know, I broke my foot at Worlds in 2017 and was just absolutely gutted and shredded, and then came back and won Commonwealth Games because I just didn't want to give up, and I didn't want to like live in the sadness of having a bad day. And I think those moments I'll look back and be like, wow, like, good job, Aisha. You really overcame some stuff. So yeah, I hope there's more to come.
That's awesome.
Thanks again to Janji for sponsoring this episode. Their community, called the Janji Collective, was designed to provide an easy way for us as runners to help contribute to clean water projects worldwide. For the $50 membership fee, they'll put $50 towards supporting these clean water projects, and you'll get a sweet singlet. Just select the $75 option at checkout and use the code FTLR. You'll also get a discount for life and early access to new gear.
So you competed in the 2016 Olympics, so the last cycle. And as we all know, Tokyo is not a 2020 Olympics. How did that impact you, and how did it shift your motivation or fire or stoke for 2020?
I couldn't be prouder of how our group did this year. We had truly excellent leadership from Joe to just sort of address head on, like, this isn't ideal. However, it doesn't mean that this isn't ideal in any shape of the word. But like, how can we move forward, and how can we become better versions of ourselves for the future? Because training is cumulative. Training of the body, training the mind, that is cumulative. And how can we show up, and how can we be better versions of ourselves at the end of the year? And that really drove me. And I was pretty lucky to have a little bit of extra time. I had a pretty nasty hamstring at the end of 2019 that I kind of wasn't paying attention to. Like, I was in relative pain all the time, so I didn't realize I was in pain, if that makes sense. So I had decided that I wasn't going to race indoors, that we were just going to rehab a ton, and maybe I'd pace, which I ended up doing, which was great. But I got to really lean into learning to care for my body totally. So that was the biggest gift that I got, was a little bit of extra time to heal injuries and to get stronger and to feel totally put together going into the new year. And I definitely got fitter. And I had as much fun as you possibly can have in a global pandemic with, Black Lives Matter revolution and, the crazy political things happening. Like, I had fun strengthening relationships and getting down to the basics. So it was pretty good. Like, zero motivation lost, which is huge. I feel like I'm even more motivated because I know my body's healthy, and I didn't have to burn any serious candles running really hard races. Like, I got to sort of keep things at a more moderate level for the year. So now I just cannot wait to step on the starting line and race. I feel like I'm like a dog on a leash that's like,
yes,
rearing to go.
Yeah. And you also had some, you made some, you did some amazing things off the track as well. Let's talk first about the race that was hosted in Crested Butte back in June. You posted on your Instagram, "We're racing and we're taking action. Each of us understands that the ability to chase our dreams is a privilege. The opportunity to pursue our passions is the heartbeat of this team, and we aim to spread it in our community. To underline our commitment to what is now the world's largest civil rights movement, we are raising funds for the Sachs Foundation, whose mission is to provide educational opportunities to Black and African American residents of Colorado. Hashtag like a boss. Track is Black and Black Lives Matter." First, I love the like a boss hashtag, and obviously the other two are quite important as well. So let's talk about that. How has your experience been as part of that organizing group in terms of steering action?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. Like there were a couple of days that were really difficult. I am someone who I think I get pretty bogged down with empathy sometimes. And I was feeling like, okay, if I just like lay around and be sad and cry, I'm not really helping anyone. And I went back to Minneapolis. I can't remember if we did this. Yeah, it was after I had gotten back from Minneapolis. Joe had asked me, our coach had asked me, like, "Hey, we're going to do this race. Like, why don't we turn it into a fundraiser? Would you be interested in finding a beneficiary? Like, let's do something as a team. Let's raise money for some opportunity based situation that is going to be a concrete action that we can take." And I was totally into it. And when I went to college, I was the beneficiary of a really similar scholarship to the scholarships that Sachs Foundation provides to Black students in Colorado. And I was just going down the path of doing some research, and I made contact with the Sachs Foundation and found out that the most amazing story, that the first scholar, his name was Dolphus Stroud, and he qualified for the Olympic trials as a middle distance runner in a 5K. And he was from Colorado Springs, and he was unable to ride the train to the Olympic trials, which was in Boston. He was unable to ride the train because he was Black. So he hitchhiked across America to get to the Olympic trials, and was exhausted by the time he got there, that he collapsed in the race. But he then went on to college, like was a really accomplished scholar. And he had he just had this incredible career and faced so much adversity. And the guy who had contacted me back, his name is Ben, he said, like, "I cannot believe that you are reaching out to me." And he told me about Dolphus and his family. And it was just like a meant to be type of connection that was made, of like, wow, being reached out to by another accomplished Black middle distance runner who wants to give to this initiative. It's like, wow, this is just a match made in heaven. It was awesome. And we really wanted to find an amount of money that could make an actual impact. And I was so proud of everybody on the team, and so thankful to everybody who donated, because we're able to make an impact. And Sachs Foundation said, like, "Hey, this is 4 or 5 more scholarships than we could have provided a year ago." And I think about being a beneficiary of a scholarship like this, and like it does mean so much. It meant so much to me and my family, and like took away some financial burden that, like, it's hard to articulate, like, how important things like this are. And it was probably my favorite thing that happened all year.
That's so cool. What was it like to witness the day?
The race day?
Yeah.
Oh, it was
like
awesome.
The culmination of all this fundraising and awareness.
Yeah, I mean, the race was really hard. Racing a mile at altitude is really tough. But it was just awesome. It was such a fun day. All of us were craving competition so much. It was the first time that we'd all put on our kits outdoor and lined up to race. And we had a limited amount of people that could come into the track. And, having an ability to use our skills that are so niche and so strange. It's just, when I really look at it from a bird's eye view, I'm like, what a weird life I have. But to be able to use what strange gifts we have to do something that helps someone else was just man, this is everything. This is so cool. And we ended up having a pretty bad day of weather, which sucked because we went with, we were doing a pledge it situation. So how the cumulative seconds below the previous record was the multiplier for people that pledged per second. So we're all just racing our faces off because we want to get the maximum donation from people. But we didn't have we didn't blow it out the way that we thought we would. But it was just so awesome. It's opportunities like this don't happen very often. So it was really special.
That's awesome. What was it like to share that, through not just with your teammates, but I'm seeing some of these comments on social, and it looks like, you had thousands of fans following every stride.
Yeah, it was incredible. I was really grateful to Joe for wanting to do this, and really grateful to my team. I felt, conversations around race and sort of disparities in America are really difficult to have for everyone. And to feel so supported by the people around me that I believe in this and they believe in this, and together we'll do our best and we'll try, and we're willing to try. It was just really, really meaningful to me. So it was a great day and a great lead up and a great result. So I felt very happy about it.
That's awesome. So thinking ahead a few months, so that would have been around the time of the 2020 track trials, pretty much that weekend, right? How are you and the team focused on 2021?
We're super focused on it. There's so much that's beyond our control. So all we can do is really focus on what we can control. And for me and for the team, that all kind of looks a little bit different based on just the individual position that everyone sits in. But for me, it's full steam ahead. I put together my biggest 5 weeks of mileage ever. Morgan McDonald and I are going up to Crested Butte for the month of October. Emma will be up there because we're looking to hit the ground running pretty early. Morgan and I both ended our summer racing pretty early and built up pretty quickly because we're looking to hit it hard from the gun once the qualification window opens in December. And I'm preparing like everything is gonna happen. And I'm not really concerned beyond that. So I'm just starting workouts back, and next year is the Olympic year, as far as I know. So that's where I'm going.
Awesome. What does balance mean to you? I find the the notion of balance to be fascinating. Some people believe in it. Some people call it juggling. So where do you fall on that spectrum?
Somewhere in the middle. Look, what I do is not normal, and it requires extraordinary focus and extraordinary effort. And I'm totally aware of that, and I'm totally comfortable with that, because this is finite. My career is finite. I'm not going to be able to be racing 1,500 meters when I'm 50 years old. So I know that I have this sort of short window to get everything I can out of myself. But I know I would be miserable if I thought about it every minute of every day. So I'm lucky in that I love what I do. I love the people around me. It's pretty easy for me to have fun. I think that my teammates would agree that I'm kind of like I want to make every single moment fun. There's a lot of singing in the car. There's a lot of dancing around at practice. And I believe that I can create fun and happiness sort of wherever I am. And that really helps me to feel balanced. And I'm lucky that I like the taste of healthy food. I'm lucky that like I am not a big boozer, that like I'm really happy to have a glass of wine. And so there are all these things that like, I've built up relationships that I surround myself with that understand the preciousness of what I'm doing, and support it and don't distract from it. And I'm just really lucky that I have that structure built in place, that even though what I'm doing is super bizarre, it feels normal in a sense, because it is normal to the people that are close in my life.
I mean, it's normal to want to improve and get the best out of yourself, and running is the medium in which you do that.
Totally.
What do you wish people knew about you?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know if I wish people knew this about me, but I think it's important to know this about me, that I am like a total nerd and dork. Like, I am not cool. I am really, we joke about it all the time. I joke about it so much with Laura Thweet. I don't know if you allow cursing on this podcast, but I've dropped a couple of curses already. So hopefully you haven't had to edit this out. But Laura and I joke all the time that like, we are never going to be hot bitches. Like I just spill stuff all the time. Like I always put my foot in my mouth, or like have my shirt on backwards, or like we, try to look cute in a picture and we look like gremlins. Like I just like, I am.
Every photo is a down step.
Exactly. Like I'm a total dork, and I don't take myself too seriously. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, on that note, where can we follow along if we want to follow your journey of jokes and mimosas and really fast laps around the oval?
I post on Instagram under Aisha Praught Leer, and that's usually where I'll be hanging out.
Awesome. Well, Aisha, thanks so much for taking the time to chat, and hope to see you out there sometime soon.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Of course. That's it for today's episode. Like many long runs, it's sad when it has to end. I hope you join in next week on For the Long Run, and in the meantime, happy trails. If you've enjoyed this episode, it would mean a lot to me if you shared it so that others can find it and enjoy it too.